So with the Season 4 Reloaded update, we got some changes to recoil patterns for a lot of the assault rifles, and in this video we're going to be going over what are the 4 lowest recoil options that are currently inside Warzone at the moment. If you do enjoy this style of content, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k. Click that link and subscribe to our second channel, but let's get straight into this. So the first thing I want to do is show you our recoil chart that we created. Now, we've done this recoil test inside Rebirth Island, 15 meters distance with the meta builds for all of these guns. We picked 4 of the lowest recoil options with the meta builds, like I said, from each of the different games, and then obviously we put it on this kind of graphic so you can see what the recoil looks like. So we've got the Modern Warfare guns first, we've got the Cold War weapons down the middle, and then the Vanguard weapons towards the right. And as you can see, we've got the Grau, M13, M4 and Kilo, and the M13 and the Kilo are definitely lower recoil than the Grau and the M4, so it's definitely something you want to keep an eye on. Now, all these guns are relatively easy to manage for the most part, but I do think the low recoil meta in Warzone is very important at the moment, so as low as you could possibly get recoil in this game, I do think you should go for it. So especially when it comes to vertical recoil, the Kilo and the M13 are very similar in terms of recoil pattern. It's just kind of the reverse of each other for the most part, so just keep that in mind. But M13 and Kilo for Modern Warfare guns. When it comes to the Cold War guns, they're very similar in terms of recoil pattern. A lot of them are vertically upwards. Now, the Vargo has a lot more side to side bounce. Fara is a bit more accurate in my opinion. Krig is like super accurate, is all vertically upwards, but it does travel quite quickly, so that might throw a lot of people off. And the XM4, even though it does sway to the right a little, it does have a very accurate recoil pattern, and it doesn't really travel quite as quick as something like the Vargo or the Fara or the Krig even. So the XM4 in my opinion is probably the easiest to control out of the bunch of these weapons here, and then the Krig probably second. But I don't really think any of the Cold War weapons have super low recoil in my opinion, and you can see that very evidently through the chart here. Now we're moving on to the Vanguard weapons, and as you can see here, we've got the NZ-41 with the meta build, keep that in mind. So this is the hatch grip and everything that's changed recently. We've got the STG as well, and again that's with the meta builds, the weighted stock, the 760mm barrel, all that good stuff. We've got the KGM40 with the meta build and the Cooper Carbine. So as you can see here, we've actually got quite a difference in terms of recoil. Now, when it comes to straight up vertical recoil, KGM40, Cooper Carbine are absolutely solid. Now, as you can see, the Cooper has got a lot of side to side bounce. Now, the reason for that is because we actually use the compressed rounds with this build. Now, if you do use lengthened instead, it actually makes this recoil pattern a lot tighter, more vertically upwards, so it's going to be easier to control. So if you actually want a better recoil pattern on the Cooper Carbine, then use lengthened instead of the compressed rounds. But I do know that you get a better TTK with the compressed rounds, and that's why I wanted to put it on the chart here. But like I said, for the most part, the KGM40 and the Cooper Carbine are going to be easier to control anyway. So starting off at number 4, and what I believe to be some of the lowest recoil guns in the game at the moment, we've got the M13. Now, I do think for the most part they're trying to make the Modern Warfare guns a little bit more meta, and that is because we have Modern Warfare 2 as well as Warzone 2 right around the corner, and it's in their best interest to try and make people get used to these Modern Warfare guns and sell some extra blueprints before that game drops. Now, with the M13, we already know the meta build, so it's the monolithic suppressor for the sound suppression, the damage range, Tempest marksman barrel for bullet velocity and recoil control, VLK optic, 60 round mags, commando foregrip. Now, the only reason I put this gun kind of like 4th on the list is because the damage per mag isn't so great with this gun. I wish I had a bigger mag option, that would be really handy, but it's still a really solid weapon, still one of the lowest recoil guns in the game, so definitely recommend it. At number 3, we have the newly buffed Kilo, and this gun got buffed, then it got nerfed again, but it's still a really solid option in my opinion. It's a little bit better than the M13, and I'll go on to explain why. But it's only got 2 damage drop-offs now, which is very handy, instead of that 3 damage drop-offs, which was just completely useless. And it still kills relatively quick because you're going to be landing most of your shots, so definitely a solid gun, and I can see why people are using it. The pick ratio's gone through the roof with this gun as well. Now, I'll explain why I think it's a little bit better than the M13. First thing is damage per mag, but you can also improve on that as well. So monolithic suppressor is going to give you sound suppression damage range, prowler barrel, which is the best for bullet velocity and recoil, VLK optic, 60 round mags, commando foregrip. This is the meta build for the Kilo, but you can actually go with 100 round mags. Now, obviously, you're going to slow down your movement speed, but 100 rounds on something like Caldera could be really useful, especially when you pair this with SMG from Vanguard that moves extremely fast. So if you do want to get across the map really quick, you've got your SMG. But if you do want to just kind of aim down sights, get as many shots off and have insanely good damage per mag, then the Kilo with 100 rounds is a really solid option. But if you want to go for the more balanced build, at number 2 we have the most picked gun for long range, and that is the KGM-40. Now the build that people are using for this is actually completely wrong, and I don't know why people are still using the wrong build. But this gun is definitely one of the best guns in the game right now for long range. It's super low recoil, as I've shown before, and the TTKs are not too bad on this weapon, so I can see why people are using it, of course. And overall, Vanguard weapons are obviously going to be the meta for now, so like I said, it's almost a no-brainer. Now, the build does change, and people are still using the wrong build, so I do want to point out the differences here. So, MX Silencer is a no-brainer, of course. Krosnick 700mm barrel is what you should be using. Now, it gives you less bullet velocity, but it's only by 100 milliseconds, but it helps more with the side-to-side recoil than the Shrouded Barrel. The Shrouded Barrel actually got nerfed with the Season 4 update, so just keep that in mind when you're building this weapon. You want to use the 700mm. There's not too much of a difference in these two barrels anyway, so just make sure you're using the one that helps the side-to-side a bit more. The 3 to 6 times, you can choose whatever optic you want. Krosnick stock is definitely the best at controlling recoil. Tight grip is what's going to give you that extra recoil control. On hand for the faster aim down sight time. Hatch grip is actually a better grip on the KGM-40 than the polymer grip, so make sure you go for the hatch grip instead. Again, that's the slight change to the build. 60 round mags is the best mags for this gun, lengthened, and then the strife angled grip. Now you can use the hand stop, but the strife angled again is going to help with the side to side recoil more than the vertical, and it doesn't really have much vertical from what you've seen earlier on anyway, and this is the build that we were using for the recoil test. At number 1, we have the meta gun in this game right now, and that's the Cooper Carbine. You could run this like a sniper support, you can run this like an SMG, you can run this like a long-range rifle, and it just depends on how you want to use this weapon. It just is a super solid gun regardless, and is low recoil. Obviously, that's why it's on this list. And I'll quickly explain slight changes you can make to make this gun a little bit different or a little bit easier to manage. But this is the meta build for this gun, so overall it's going to give you a very good time to kill and also give you recoil control. So MX Silencer for the sound suppression and recoil control, Cooper Custom barrel for the best TTK, 3 to 6 times optic, you can use the G16. Custom padded stock is the best at giving you sustained fire accuracy and flinch resistance. Tight grip is going to help with the recoil. On hand, polymer grip, or you can also go for the hatch grip in this case as well. I do think the polymer grip actually works a little bit better on the Cooper Carbine. 60 round mags, compressed rounds is going to give you a better TTK, so this is the meta build for the Cooper Carbine. And then the strife angled grip. Now, some people like to say Carver 4 grip's pretty good as well, but it doesn't help with the side to side nearly as much. Now, you can go for the Carver 4 grip, use this as the meta build for the weapon. This is probably the build that most people are going to recommend to you. But overall, I think the strife angled grip, and then if you use lengthened, is going to be the most accurate build for this gun. So it's going to be the super low recoil build. And overall, you should be able to fry enemies at a super long distance with the lengthened ammo type, and that's going to correct some of that recoil you've seen in the chart earlier on. So there we have it. Those are the 4 lowest recoil guns inside Warzone right now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k. Click that link and subscribe to our second channel, and thank you very much for watching.